This review copy was provided by Fabraz. Being published by the same studio that brought you Slime Son comes Skellboy, a new action RPG with a fun and entertaining backstory that makes for some interesting gameplay mechanics. Let's see how well this bone-chilling adventure turned out. In a kingdom far away, a sorcerer fell in love with a local princess, but then quickly got turned down by her when he attempted to ask her out. In his heartbroken rage, the sorcerer casts a spell over the kingdom that brings the dead back to life, wreaking havoc on all the villagers and monarchy. Unluckily for the sorcerer, it also brings you back, a long-lost hero who comes back as a skeleton. This is a blessing in disguise, as you now can swap out body parts to better tailor your needs at any given situation. As wacky as it all sounds, this adventure is a humorous written one that didn't have me rolling on the floor laughing, but at least did get me to chuckle over its 8-hour campaign. At first glance, I thought Skellboy looked like an indie take on Paper Mario, and while the humorous writing is the DNA of Skellboy's story, its gameplay is more action-focused. In fact, this might be one of the closest attempts to what I imagine a Paper Legend of Zelda formula could look like. You play as a hero skeleton back from the dead, now with the ability to swap out body parts. Besides the cosmetic changes, new body parts act as new tools or stat modifiers that will completely alter your moves. For example, picking up a general's head adds 2 extra hearts to your health bar, while a helmet that's with 2 Ls makes you heavier but lets you attack enemies above you. Some of these modifiers are cool, like the feet that leave behind a trail of lava. That was a fun way to take down enemies, though it also meant that I could easily hurt myself if I took a misstep. With that said, I wouldn't say this game was much of a challenge. Its gameplay formula had me traversing an interconnected world, taking on enemies with my weapon of choice. Whether it was my trusty sword, a club, or a spear, spamming the attack button usually got the job done. I preferred the sword and the club over projectiles like the spear, simply because aiming felt a bit cumbersome. Apparently that's being improved in a post-launch patch, but we'll just have to wait and see about that. As for the dungeons or the overworld, I really enjoyed that they were connected. It's like one grand world, though it also meant that it was kinda easy to get lost in it. While exploring the interconnected world, I came across all sorts of enemies. Their variation not only introduced new types of attacks, but also new body parts for me to use against them. That variety of new moves was always interesting to try out, but I'd say the most interesting modifiers were far and few in between. For the most part, I found myself breezing through each section's new terrain, at least until I came across the boss battle. Bosses were certainly the highlight of every dungeon for me. Each boss featured a unique attack pattern or sort of puzzle that needed to be figured out to progress forward. Although I wouldn't say that they were that difficult, they did at least change up the pacing and provided a challenge in comparison to the rest of the campaign. By the end of the adventure, I had enjoyed my time as a skeleton hero, though I think some of its gameplay features could have been expanded upon and further explored. Skellboy features a 3D voxel look that looks like it could have come from the early N64 days. The mix of 2D sprites and 3D truly makes it a sight to behold. While the idea isn't revolutionary, the use of interesting 3D cinematic camera angles made some terrain introductions and parts of the campaign feel grander than they would have otherwise. The art style certainly held up throughout my playtime at least. What didn't hold up was the game's performance, which sadly is a bit of a mixed bag at the time of playing this before launch. Some areas like the introduction suffer from framerate dips below the 30 FPS line when nothing major is happening on screen. Mind you, this happens both in dock and in handheld mode. With that said, the publisher has reached out to me with details on a post-launch update, including a video showing improvements to the framerate along with other features. That at least gives me some hope that most of this will be ironed out a week after launch. However, this review reflects the product I'm playing right now rather than when it could be post-patch, so keep that in mind. When it comes to music, Skellboy has a catchy soundtrack, but a limited one. What I mean by that is that in my first 1 to 2 hours of the game, I was vibing with the music, but as it continued to repeat, it quickly lost its flair. What I think was done continuously well was the sound design. The use of retro sound bites with every little action was charming, and even cooler when it was synchronized to the HC Rumble in the Joy-Con. It's a minute feature, sure, but when it's used well, it has a major effect on the feel of the gameplay, and Skellboy excels at that. Skellboy is a fun and entertaining action RPG with some interesting ideas. Sadly, those ideas don't get fleshed out as much as I would have hoped, but they do give you a taste for what could have been. Nevertheless, I enjoyed the humorous adventure with a unique gameplay twist. It was presented beautifully when it wasn't dropping frames, but luckily that should be fixed within a week after launch. If you enjoyed the video, then be sure to subscribe for more upcoming reviews on the latest indies and AAA games coming to consoles and PC. You can also join my Discord where I'm actively talking to more members of the community like yourself. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you all in the next one.